Hello, I'm Cindy Nierenberg. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm on a journey to lose 65 pounds. This week, I had a gain and I gained 0.2 pounds, 2/10 of a pound. And you know what? I'm really not even considering that a gain, but I also can't consider it a loss. And that is my intent. So I started thinking this week, okay, what's really keeping me from staying on track? What's keeping me from doing this bouncing around business that I've been doing for months now? And I started thinking about the thoughts that are going through my head, and I came up with two pretty destructive thoughts that show up a lot. And those thoughts are, I don't care, and it doesn't matter. Two destructive thoughts. I don't care and it doesn't matter. And they show up together. Like, do you remember in that old movie, The Shining, how those twins would show up at the end of the hallway? They were twin little girls. That's kind of how I'm thinking of these thoughts. They're just these scary, spooky twins that show up. I don't care and it doesn't matter. Because the reality of those thoughts are, if I take them to their completion, the thoughts are, I don't care about me and I don't matter. And I don't believe those thoughts, but they run through my head constantly. So in order to counteract those thoughts, I think, what would I do to get those thoughts out of my head? What would I do to say those thoughts are a lie? And the only thing that I can do in that moment is to show up for myself. And when we show up for ourselves, we can make some change. And by showing up for ourselves, there are a lot of ways that we can do that. And I want you guys to consider, how do you show up in your life for yourself? It's easy to find ways where we haven't shown up, especially when we have a goal of weight loss and we're not getting there. But in what ways do you show up during your life? And I was thinking, oh my gosh, for years, decades, really, decades, when I worked as a speech pathologist, I would set my alarm for 5:30 every morning. And I would get up and I would shower and get dressed. And I had about a half an hour commute to get to work. But I would be at work between 7 and 7:30 because I knew that my swallowing patients were going to eat breakfast around 7:30 and I wanted to be there for that. So in order to show up for my patients and in order to show up for the facility where I worked so that they had the security that there was a speech therapist on staff present for breakfast and lunch meals, I would get up at 5:30 every morning. And I did that for decades, showing up for somebody else, showing up for other people. I want you to think about those of you who have kids and they come home and they've got a ton of homework that needs to be done. And you sit down and you help them, or you make sure that they're doing their own self-guided homework. You're showing up for them. Those of you who are caregivers, like, God bless you, you show up every day, every hour, every minute in some circumstances, and you're showing up for another person. My thought this week was, when do we get to step into the equation? It's a big question. When do we get to say, hey, wait a minute, I matter. It does matter. I do matter. I am part of this equation. How many times have we given up that responsibility to do something for other people, but not to do it for ourselves? I remember when my oldest daughter, I think she was in junior high, and they had the reading programs where you had to read, certain books got certain numbers of points. And my daughter picked a very ambitious read. She decided that she was going to read the book Jane Eyre. And she was really struggling with it, having trouble getting through it. And so I knew the only way this kid is going to get through this book is if we do it together. So I would crawl in bed with her at night, and together we would read out loud, chapter after chapter, a couple chapters a night. And we finally got through to the end of the book. I don't think to this day she likes that book. But I had to step up for my kid. And my kid had to step up for a reading program where there was a certain criteria. Where do you step up in your life? Where do you show up for yourself in the goals that you want to achieve? That's what I'm going to be working on this week. And I'm kind of excited about it because it's very easy to see where we're failing. That's where, like, our brain always wants to go to the bad place. But when you actually sit down and you delineate, okay, these are the places that I stepped up for myself. I actually showed up. And it could be something as simple as I drank a glass of water. When I got out of bed, I started my day hydrated. Or it could be, I decided I'm going to finish the vegetables on my plate instead of leaving room for dessert, right? Because dessert sounds better. But I know that the vegetables are probably a lot better for me than the dessert is. So if I'm leaving room for something, it should be for the nutritive, good foods. Where do you show up for yourself? And I'm starting to really kind of take, not control, what am I looking for? Take account of all of the ways that I'm showing up on a daily basis for me. I want to be part of the equation. I do matter. I want those twins to be gone. I don't want them buzzing around in my head. So that's my deal for this week. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week with good news.